4D, discussion of an ordinance amending open burning rules under solid waste control and an application permit. Discussion, it says. So I will tell you that I've had several people speak to me about not allowing any additional burning, that they felt like the times that were enough times.
That's probably a good point for me to go back for all the council members to give them a history on this issue. Back in 07, when this was originally being looked at, the city administrator did a survey in the community asking them if they supported a complete ban on burning or whether they opposed such. At that time, they got roughly about 430 responses, and it was nearly an exact 50-50 response between those that supported a burn ban and those who opposed the burn ban. After that, in 07, the council then made a decision to draft a new ordinance. The ordinance that was drafted at that time gave roughly about 39 days during the spring and 39 days during the fall when you could actually burn. And the reason why I say it wasn't 45, even though it was a month and a half, Sundays weren't an allowable burn day. So you ended up with roughly an average of about 39 days in the spring and 39 days in the fall. When the new council took seat in 08, they reviewed this ordinance again and they adjusted it, and that's when they changed it to a set of 60 days in the spring and 60 days in the fall, open for burning purposes. So that kind of brings you the history as far as the issue prior to when we started discussing this last council meeting. I did draft something at the very most generic basis, and I'm going to kind of discuss it a little bit. You will see an ordinance, a draft ordinance in here, and it basically is just adding one sentence to the ordinance that basically opens the determination of discretion to the council on whether allowing permitted burning outside of that 60-day window. That's all it simply says. It gives no other direction. One of the things I wanted to ask the council tonight is whether or not if they do want to move forward with creating a permit process, if we can continue to work on, and if you have any ideas on what type of restrictions you want to see included in that they be included in the ordinance. Because if I draft it up as just a generic like this, there's really no criteria. We're not really giving any type of information to the public on any idea, any scope of when you guys are likely going to approve them and likely won't approve them. I was asked after the last meeting to do a little research to see if I could find similar. I was unable to find any other cities that were using a permitting process to do this type of thing. So there's not a whole lot of other cities for us to consider as examples on how we would move forward in this type of approach. The other thing that came to my attention, I did have some communication as well. One particular individual in the community, and he wasn't just so much specifically talking about the permitting process, but he suggested in all cases where the city allows burning, that he recommended that the ordinance be amended to require full attendance of a burning of a fire. Right now, there is not that type of restriction within our ordinance, but the suggestion was made that if you're burning a pile somewhere, that someone should be in attendance of that pile at all times for safety purposes. So that is a little bit of the communication I've received back on this issue over the last 2 weeks.
When I say I've had comments, I've had 3 people comment about it, so it's not like overwhelming people who come to the door.
Well, I think we should give people an opportunity to burn it. I mean, there's a basis if we look at it and feel it's necessary.
Would you like them to have to prove that? Would you like them to require justification of why they weren't able to do it during the 60-day periods, or
they have to
what would be in our benefit to do so? I mean, you can require that anyway, but I'm saying, do you want that type of literature required in the ordinance if you're going to allow.
I think it's on an individual basis. If they
Yeah.
have to come before and ask for a permit, they would tell you why they were doing it at that particular
But we could
time.
also ask questions.
Yeah.
That's why we try to make recommendations.
Or maybe if you wanted to put a couple specific things down so that everybody, they could look at that and say, well, I don't fit into that category. I don't know. You know, you're going to open it up to...
And that makes the other point. On the adverse side, is there any times when you just specifically want to say, don't even bring us an application for a permit during this time because we're not going to approve one?
So if there's a burning ban on the county, you'd have to abide by that. You can do it anyway.
That's true. It's to be real dry, they will put a burning ban on the county.
No, I just don't want to have people cutting down a whole grove and burning a whole grove just because they live on the outskirts of town. I personally don't think it's, I think you're singling out a certain group to, I mean, if you're going to open it up, you're going to have to open it up to people who can't do it. You know, and I think we're going backwards if we do this. That's my opinion. Because you could have other people in town taking stuff out to the edge of town and paying them the $10 and say, hey, you know, I need to have
Well,
this.
this is for in town, isn't it?
It is for
Well,
anyone.
inside city limits.
Inside city limits,
Yeah.
You know, I don't know why they couldn't get it burnt within the 120 days that we're already given. And if they're going to do something like that, they need to plan ahead.
Bill, any comments?
Yeah, if we did, and I'm not speaking in favor of one side or the other, if we did, we could certainly have a, you know, sunset clause and, you know, how many days it's good for.
We already have.
Yeah, we already had that, but if we're outside that,
Yeah.
you know, 120 days.
Well, I guess I don't have any problem with it all. You know, they want to pay the fee.
Gary?
I can slide either way. It doesn't really make any difference to me. But I do think we should look at this because we can tell them no. That's where I'm coming from. At least we're giving them the opportunity to ask. I mean, if we don't like it, we don't like it.
Yeah, and one thing, you know, you have to consider too, there are folks out there that have you know, pulmonary conditions, allergies. You know, how small of a minority do you want to? You know, it doesn't have to be that big before it adversely affects them. And then you've got the wind conditions. And,
It's true.
One of the things we did with the animal control ordinance when we gave them a permitting process to go beyond our set amount of animals is we required them to get a declaration from their neighbors on whether or not they supported allowing them to have more animals or not. And whereas with smoke, I mean, you got a bigger, wider, it's not really directly applicable, but I mean,
How would you be the whole, I mean, if the wind's in the right direction, it could be the whole town.
Right.
If they're burning enough.
right.
I don't know.
Adam, did they make these other communities that have these, did not have permits, did any of them allow anything?
Some of the, I mean, the communication I got back from the communities is they tend to either have one of three things. They either didn't have an ordinance on the matter, they had a full restriction on burning, or they had something similar to us. They had a period of time where burning was acceptable.
So they didn't actually have anything in writing on allowance for letting somebody else burn something exceptional?
No, there were no true exceptions other than, I mean, if you had like and we already have these in our ordinance, but a recreational fire and things of that nature. Nothing to the process of permitting a open burning allowance outside of the scope of when normal burning allowances are allowed.
In the end, you have to give them permission. Are you ready? More discussion, more questions, more additions to what he's proposing?
I'm looking for additional direction from the council on if they want me to proceed with drafting, if they want to see more language particular to restrictions. do they even want to continue on this path or not? It's another question I have.
We're getting along fine the way it is right now, that's all.
Well, just to speak, and I agree, there's some people though, that have, I don't think this is gonna open up the whole town to come be walking in here all the time. We all know that. There's just gonna be some instances with probably a few individuals.
Somebody's got a tree and they got a few branches they want to burn.
Yeah, that on the outskirts of town. So as far as I'm concerned, to kind of speed things up, I'd like to make a motion to approve the open burning $10 fee.
Well,
Okay.
it's only
Further
on...
study that.
Correct.
You want to make this, you want to tell Adam to go ahead and
Correct.
draft a proposal
Yes.
for voting at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
Just to kind of, let's
okay.
move things along.
Then we can vote on it at that time.
Can we consider, time restrictions in that application?
Sure, I just,
Okay.
If you have
Okay.
suggestions that you want to have included, why don't you tell Adam?
Yeah, please let me know.
Yeah, if you have particular things that you would like to see included in there,
Be
please.
thinking of something during the next couple of weeks.
I would like to have, time restrictions,
And if we're gonna do it, I mean, $10 is too cheap.
Well, I'll ask the permitting question second, as a follow.
I'm just trying to get things, but I know that it's probably gonna, 95% of this community is not gonna affect, but there's gonna be a few in the outlying areas, where I can see where,
If it was really necessary and you really wanted to do it, if it was me and I really had something that I absolutely had to do, would you quiver it paying $25?
well,
What do you have? We're looking for a second.
A second? Oh, well, I didn't know we could take it to motion because he's just asking you to go
Oh,
ahead.
he can,
That's all
yeah,
we're voting on.
motion.
Okay, all right, there's a second. Any additional comments or questions? Sandy, would you call for a vote, please?
Councilman Hanson?
Yes.
Johnston?
No.
Brennan?
yes.
Frederick?
Yes.
Frohart?
yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.